All right, today we're talking about how to use AI to replace software you use every day, including we've got a story of how our guest here today helped one client to replace a $300,000 a year piece of software with a vibe coded solution. It's a little bit more complex than that, but I'll explain in a moment. My guest today is Don Ho. I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show, and you know every week we have smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies, and we've had Netflix, Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, YPO, EO, Activation Blizzard, lots of great episodes if you want to check them out in the archives. And of course, this episode is brought to you by our company Rise 25, where we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. And if you want to learn more about what we do, you can go to our website, which is rise25.com, and learn more there. All right, I'm super excited for our guest here today. His name is Don Ho. He is an attorney. He's a co-founder and CEO of Kaizen AI Lab, where he helps mid-market businesses to implement practical AI systems with built-in governance and measurable ROI. And he has done a lot of different things in his time. He's practiced law, as I mentioned. He's doing just really deep into the AI world, which is why I wanted to have him on here today. He even built and scaled up a tea and coffee company as well and sold that right before COVID. So we're going to hear about his whole story. He's also located here in California and practiced law and graduated and passed the bar exam the same time as I did. So there's so many parallels between me and him, and I thought it'd be really fun to have him on. So Don, first, let's start with your parents were immigrants from Vietnam, China, came over here around 1980. You grew up in an immigrant household where your parents had a video store, and you went to work in the video store. I think you said at about age 9. I'd love to hear how that shaped who you are and what that experience was like for you. One, growing up with your parents having come over to this country, and two, seeing them, being business owners and running a business.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. That was a great introduction. I appreciate it. I like to say that I'm a recovering attorney now.
Me too.
Just like you, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the background of how I got here to this country. How it shaped me. To me, it's funny because it's just like anything else, right? It's like kind of eating your vegetables. Growing up, I hated it. Right. I hated the fact that every Saturday from 9 years old until whatever, I had to go up to work with my parents up in LA County and basically miss all Saturdays for most of my, middle childhood. But what I've realized over the years is that actually instilled a work ethic in me. Seeing my dad leave for work the same time I go to school, and he doesn't get home until 10, 11 o'clock every night, that instilled that work ethic that has basically carried on into my, career, my entrepreneurial journey for the past 25 years now. Yeah, I still remember when shortly after they got their business, I started selling candy because we would buy, we had candy at the store, and my parents would give some to me and let me buy some for very cheap. And then I would take it and sell it back to the other kids at school in whatever, 6th grade, 7th grade, and that was my first business, right?
Yeah, I have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. And each of them has at some point come to me and talked about selling something at school. And I, to my wife's chagrin, have encouraged all of them because all the best guests on my podcast sold something at school and got busted by their principal. I swear. And so I just totally encourage them. And I talk with them about like what to do if the principal comes up to you and, accuses you of it, accuses you of selling stuff at school. I'm like, and so my 9-year-old right now is strategizing with me like, well, I'm going to say to him that, don't you want to be successful in life? And shouldn't I be learning these skills around how to sell things?
Yep.
And I'm like, this is the best. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's to me, that's the one thing that is missing, in the childhood educational system.
Yeah.
They're not teaching kids about the real world. They're teaching them rote memorization.
Yeah. And I'm
So
sure we could have a long conversation just on the educational piece, like how education is changing dramatically. But so you're growing up, so you're in an immigrant household, and like many first generation children of immigrants, a lot of kids get pressure to either go to med school or go to law school. You end up going to law school. How much do you think, looking back on it now, was that something you wanted to do? Was that because I mean, I look at you and you share things in various groups that we're a part of with a lot of passion and knowledge about various different cutting edge legal cases that come out. So there definitely seems to be some interest still in legal matters, cutting edge legal cases and stuff like that.
yeah, it's one of those things where people ask me now, like you said, you hated being a lawyer. I basically stopped practicing law right around 10, 12 years into my career. But they ask, do you regret it? And the answer is, of course not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Between the foundation that my parents gave me, when I got my driver's license, I got it the day of my 16th birthday. 3 weeks later, my parents took a trip to Vietnam for a month and left me in charge of their business, of our family's livelihood.
Wow.
During the summer, obviously, but yeah. At
So you're like
16 years
running
old,
the business while they're gone.
I was running the business
Wow.
every day for whatever,
Wow.
28 days or whatever it was. But no, like I don't regret it at all because of the relationships. Two of my old classmates are still two of my best friends to this day. And so the skills that you learn, and you can attest to this, the skills that you learn to how to think like a lawyer, those apply into any business life,
Yeah.
any aspect of life that you can imagine. So in from that respect, I don't regret it at all. To answer your first question, I believe you asked, I was probably 2/3, 1/3 on board with it. I always showed an interest. I always liked watching, legal dramas, My Cousin Vinny, John Grisham novels, that kind of stuff. I always had a predilection to those types of that type of entertainment. But obviously that's a lot more. What's the word for it? It's not reality, right?
Yeah.
It's not the reality of day-to-day lawyering, as you know.
Although I can't remember what class it was in law school, but I had I think a professor who actually played clips from My Cousin Vinny, because I think it's like the rules of evidence or something are accurate in that movie, like they're
Yeah,
to a T. And
yeah,
so like law school classes will actually show clips from that movie, which is really
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
yeah. Compared to a lot of other shows that are just like they take a lot of
Liberties and stuff like that.
liberties.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because, as you and I are in different AI groups, and everyone is kind of figuring things out together. And one of the things that I'm grateful for with having gone to law school is that it taught me not that I know all the answers, but that if I don't know the answer, I can figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's really helpful in the world of AI where I don't know so much now. And I'm doing these things like in the terminal, which I never went into ever before. And now I'm in there all day long.
Same.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy to think like the stuff I'm doing never would have had the confidence to do not that long ago. But definitely is a part of like you go to law school and it teaches you that you can figure these things out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so you're practicing law. And then when did you get the idea to start a tea shop?
The really, really short version is that, fast forward to 2012, 13, something like that. Um, I live in South Orange County, and I was driving up to downtown LA, uh, Riverside, San Bernardino, an hour and a half, 2 hour commute every day, 3 times a week. 3 days a week I was in court. So I was leaving the house at 6:30. Wasn't getting back until about the same time, and after, a couple of years of doing that, and I had just had my first kid, I just said, you know what? I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that if I didn't get off the hamster wheel of that type of life in relatively soon, that I would be there until I die. I'd be there until my 60s, 70s, just like every other lawyer that I had met, through law school and in practice. And I just didn't want that. I kind of just made the decision that there has to be a better way to live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember that I had a friend who had asked me to vet a business plan for him. He was looking at buying a business. He asked me to vet the plan,
And are you doing
and
civil litigation at this point? What work are you
at
doing?
this point, it was business, family, and a little bit of criminal law, like
Okay.
DUIs and basic criminal law stuff. Um, and the year prior, while I was still full time practice, he had asked me to vet that plan, and I just remember thinking like, oh, the numbers look pretty good. The margins look pretty good. So that always stuck in my head. So one night when I was at my lowest, I told my wife, I don't want to do this anymore. And she asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, I kind of want to look into this whole tea and coffee thing. And one thing led to another. I ended up selling that practice to my two partners. They're still going strong out there in the Inland Empire. And I took that money and I decided to open a tea and coffee shop with
Mm.
it. That turned out to be my EO business, and kind of right place, right time. We opened up 4 stores in the first 3 years we were
Wow.
open, and then I exited that company in 2020, February of
Did
2020.
did you was there a reason why you wanted to exit?
They offered me a lot of money.
Okay, well, that's a good reason.
Yeah. So I was about to start franchising.
Mm.
It was right at that point, end of 2019. I had started looking into franchising. Obviously, I was like, okay, I can do this myself, being a
Mm-hmm.
former lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 weeks into my research, one of my customers approached me, and they wanted to buy my business.
Mm.
So yeah,
Mm.
fast forward 3 weeks later, we had a signed deal and closed escrow February of 2020.
Your parents had worked hard, scraped so that you could go to law school, you become a lawyer,
Yeah,
and then you go back into retail.
yeah, oh yeah.
How was that? How
They
did that work out?
that's a great point. They um, when I first did it, they didn't tell anybody.
They
They
didn't
didn't
tell.
tell they didn't tell the family. They didn't tell their friends.
Yeah. It's so much
And then
easier to tell the family and friends
oh,
my
he's just
son's a
doing
lawyer than to
yeah.
say like he's starting a tea shop.
Yeah. And they didn't tell anybody until they came about a year in.
Okay.
It took us a little, it took us about 8 or 9 months till we really found our groove,
Hmm.
to find the product market fit, and get the local neighborhood to discover us and all that kind of stuff. And it's tea. Like it's
Yeah.
tea and again, this is 2014. So it's there's a learning curve to it. That's why I always say tea and coffee shop.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until around the end of our first year where we really hit our stride, and my parents would come in and see the lines, and then they started bringing their friends.
Then they're more
Yeah.
proud.
Look at my
Okay.
look at my son. He was a lawyer and now he's doing this. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
there was definitely some pride in it after the fact. After I had
Yeah.
kind of proven it. But yeah, no, there was definitely conversations about, are you sure you know what you're doing? And
Yeah.
I said no, but I was
Yeah.
honest. I said no, but I think I know what I'm doing. And you guys gave me the background and that kind of thing. And so they always had really good business instincts. They ended up having 3 different businesses over time. They're all video stores, but 3 different video stores that were all successful. 2 of them they sold. The last one they sunsetted in 2015, something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
that industry, of course, Blockbuster became huge, and so a lot of the independent mom and shop video stores suffered. Did they struggle at any
Oh
point
no,
because
they made it through that.
they
They
made
made
it
it
through?
all
Really?
through all
Okay.
of that. It was Netflix.
Netflix,
Netflix
really
was the
interesting.
one that
Hmm.
and it came to a natural close. No one wanted to buy it, but the lease ended at the store. They were able to sell their inventory, and they had planned well enough that they were able to retire.
Okay.
Sometime like 2015, 17, something like that.
Okay. Okay. So no more Netflix. And was there a period of time where they were like kind of looking at the business and being like, this, it seems like Netflix is eating away at all of our business
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the last 3-ish years,
Yeah.
they were seeing, lower sales. So,
Hmm.
it kind of came, they naturally knew that
Yeah.
it was gonna just, run its course.
Right.
And they were at that age, they had hit, early 60s. So
Hmm.
they've been retired now. So let me see, it's 2026. So they sold in 2017, 2018, or the
Okay.
lease ended in 17.
So okay, back to your business,
Yeah.
the tea shop, you end up selling it. The final day is end of February 2020. So what did you know that we didn't know, man? Tell us. Like you sound brilliant.
I'd like to take some credit for that and say that I saw something coming. It was just pure dumb luck.
Mm,
I like to say that it was karma for a previous good deed I did in a previous life or something like that. But no, the only thing I take credit for is that they wanted to pay me over the course of that first year of
hmm.
operations, and I had heard, actually one of my forum mates at the time had just completed his sale 6 months or 8 months prior.
Hmm.
So I leaned on him, and he kind of walked me through, and he's like, yeah, get as much money as you can
Hmm.
up front,
Hmm.
at closing. So they were open to it. They were open to the conversation. I took what I thought was a slight, loss there, but at the end of the day, obviously, it turned out to be the best thing for me.
Yeah.
And they were able to withstand everything. So the company's still there, still going strong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of those types of coffee shops and, tea shops ended up doing okay, but I'm sure there was a period of 6 months, 12 months. I mean,
Oh
a
yeah,
period of time
yeah. They
of
they
struggle.
closed for
So
about almost 2 months. I think
really,
they were down
wow.
for 6 or 8
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah. But you didn't
yeah.
have to deal with that. So that must have been amazing. You
No,
found
I
your
had to
way
deal
back
with
to
it.
practicing law, though, right? During that time?
Yeah. So like I said, this was December 2019 that I got approached, and 2 months later, I was out. I was actually
Wow.
looking into
2 months. That's
franchising.
fast. Very
60
fast.
days, 60
Yeah.
days, bro. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I still remember it was December 1st, 2019. That's when they called me.
Wow.
And then, signed deal 3 weeks later, 60 days later was
Wow.
the exit. I was looking into franchising the
Hmm.
business. That was going to be like our next step. And just started researching that, like I said. And um, uh, so when they approached and we sold, like I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what was going to be next. And so, it was nice money. It was good money. It allowed me to buy the house that I'm sitting in right now, but it wasn't retirement money.
Mm.
So I went back to what I knew, which was, I had been kind of the local, I like to say the EO legal aid for
Hmm.
my chapter, for my EO friends.
Yeah. That
Just
means doing free legal work for people. Yeah. Yeah.
pointing them in the right direction,
Okay. Okay.
that sort of thing. The
Or
the
yeah,
occasional
this
letter,
is go this way,
yeah,
not that way. Yeah.
yeah, the occasional letter,
Hmm.
the cease and desist letter for a
Hmm.
good friend, that sort of
Hmm.
stuff. So what I decided to do was, hey, I'm going to start a fractional general counsel business for all of my EO business, business owner friends, stuff like that. And that kind of just naturally led into the uh, the space of compliance, governance, crypto. At this time, this is 2020, so crypto was starting to get big.
Hmm.
There were a lot of people who didn't understand the rules, the laws around crypto.
Hmm.
The whether or not NFTs were securities or not, right?
Hmm.
Based on the Howey test, all that kind of stuff. So it just, again, good timing. It led into that, which has now led into AI. There's
Mm.
a lot of AI questions, internal usage, compliance with various laws or the lack thereof, right? It's the
Hmm.
Wild West out there right now. The
Hmm.
first law goes into effect in the US in, I think, June 1st, June
Hmm.
1st, August 1st,
Hmm.
sometime this summer. Colorado is the
Mm.
first state that has a formal AI legislation
Mm.
going into effect.
Mm. And you, like me, kind of discovered the ChatGPT day. It was November of 2022, I believe. So you discover it. Tell me a little bit about what that epiphany was like.
Yeah, whatever, 4, 5, 7 days in, you start hearing about this new tool. I've always been, on the bleeding edge, the early adopter of technology. I was one of the first shops that went cashless back in 2018, pre-COVID. Now it's second nature, right? You
Yeah.
go into a shop, sorry, we don't take cash, no problem. But back then it was a big deal. We had to do a
Wow.
lot of education and
So you literally
a lot of
said we're not taking
reminders.
cash anymore in 2018. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was there were painful days. There were painful days, I'm not gonna lie.
Painful days
But
mean like people came in with cash. They're like, I want to buy a drink, and you were like,
yeah,
sorry, we don't take it.
yeah.
And what was the reason behind it?
Um, uh, I just hated dealing with cash.
Mm.
It was just one of those things. I saw where the future was going, you
Hmm.
know. I'm the guy who waited 4 hours for the first iPhone. I was like,
Yeah.
my buddy who I just saw this weekend from law school makes fun of me still because I was the only kid in class with a Palm Pilot,
Hmm.
back in
Hmm.
2003, whatever it was.
Yep. I had a Palm Pilot too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
so
was
so
so
so.
excited about Palm Pilots because you could
Oh yeah,
have your
they were super
schedule
cool.
on there and contacts and sync them with your computer. That was
And your
revolutionary.
calendar
Hmm.
and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel seen right now, John. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. So you get rid
But
of cash because you don't want to deal with like all the junk you have to deal with cash. Okay.
theft,
Yeah.
counterfeit bills,
Mm,
all that sort of stuff.
mm,
Customers counting cash back wrong, all those
mm,
things.
mm, hmm.
So to me, it was a convenience thing.
Yeah.
I didn't see it from the perspective of, hey, middle school kid comes in, he probably only
Mm,
has cash.
mm,
But yeah, I mean, my 13-year-old right now, we got her first debit card. We opened a checking account for her so she could have her own debit card.
yeah.
Because so many shops are now only
Yeah.
take
A cashless. Yeah. Yeah.
cashless, right? So yeah, but yeah, so just like you, always between Twitter and Reddit and that kind of stuff, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this is the new thing. I'll be honest, it was like, okay, this is interesting, but it really didn't move the needle yet back then. But every I'd check back in 3 months in, six
Yeah.
months later,
Yeah.
and it just kept on getting smarter,
Yeah.
right? It kept on getting smarter. Uh, People who knew me or my friends and network would ask me questions about it, so that kind of forced me to stay involved in it. And it was about 2 years ago where I discovered Anthropic, the makers of
Yep.
Claude.
Yep.
I really liked their mission, about staying kind of like not as for profit, not as corporate as other people were getting. And they seemed like there was more guardrails,
Hmm.
uh, AI for the greater good.
Yeah.
We'll call it, and now we're kind of seeing that come to fruition.
Absolutely. Just
You
a
know,
couple of weeks ago with the negotiations with the Department of Defense and their refusal to agree to some conditions in their terms of service that would have allowed the Department of Defense to use it for domestic surveillance, or I think there was a couple other issues as well. But
autonomous weapons,
right.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. So you go into doing fractional general counsel work for other companies. How does that bleed into now you're actually doing AI projects, which is what you're doing now?
So again, back to Claude and Anthropic. Claude Code kind of changed the
Hmm.
game,
Yeah.
right? I heard about it. I kind of saw it. Um, I'm not going to say I'm an expert user by any means, but I know how to use it. And the next step was really Claude Cowork in
Yep.
January of this year. That
Yeah.
was the real turning point for my own personal usage, and then obviously the OpenClaw,
Yep.
ClaudeBot, OpenClaw software that came out around the same time.
Which people are comparing to like that ChatGPT moment when
Oh yeah,
OpenClaw came out and people started testing it and being like, "Oh my gosh, this is revolutionary."
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Uh,
and how did you start using OpenClaw in your business?
So going back to that reference to the Palm Pilot, it's literally always been my dream to have, that EA, that assistant who just remembers everything.
Yeah.
The second brain, whatever you want to call it. I've gone through at this point probably 5 or 6 different software programs
Hmm.
to try to figure out that second brain, someone who could remember me, remember everything I'm trying to keep track of.
Hmm.
Um, uh, like a lot of successful entrepreneurs, I'm slightly ADHD,
Hmm.
neurodivergent, whatever you want to call it, which is both a superpower and a curse.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
I will come up with a lot of really good ideas, but I won't have the patience and focus to go through
Follow
with a
through on
lot of
them.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we actually have tools that you can actually finish projects
Yeah. Yeah.
quickly,
Yeah.
and that's kind of been the blown mind moment, where, oh my gosh, all these different ideas we can do now. We
Yeah.
can actually accomplish these things.
And
So
again, kind of going back to this, what we were talking about earlier with lawyers, you can figure stuff out. So you go from I'm helping you with legal advice to, oh, I'll just build it. Like I can create it for you. Yeah.
that's literally exactly what's
Yeah.
happened in the
And now
last.
and now you have this project that you're working on. Tell us about this project that you've worked on that is
Yeah,
replacing basically a $300,000 piece of software with something that you've built in about a month or so.
yeah. So there's a very expensive enterprise level software. We won't name names, but
We've all
my
heard of it.
clients paying them,
Yeah.
300K a year,
Wow.
to act as kind of the top of funnel, application layer, and the CRM for this company, and we're able to build it. Uh, we're able to build it out. We'll be done in about 3 days. you know
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
um, the project was, our deadline was 5 weeks, and we're going to finish it basically right on time. We've passed 550 different cybersecurity tests. There's PII issues, there's HIPAA, issues and compliance that we have to deal with. We've got a full penetration test that's scheduled for 10 days from now.
Wow.
And yeah, we were able to basically replicate all of that for them in
And
right
if I
about five
told
weeks.
you a year ago or 2 years ago that you'd be creating a project like this, you probably would have
Oh,
said
there's
I'm
no way.
crazy. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a developer. I'm not a
Yeah.
coder. I've never
Yeah.
written a line of code in my life. So to your point, from earlier, uh, all of my advice before was just advice, right? This is what you should do. Now, either I can refer you to a developer, or you should do X, Y, and Z, but I couldn't actually help you implement
Yeah.
until basically 90 days ago.
And did you like every good entrepreneur go find someone else who could help you to do this, or you do a
Of
lot of this
course.
stuff yourself? Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so I have a technical partner
Okay.
in Kaizen, and it works out really well. He
Yeah.
he loves getting into the nitty gritty and the weeds into this kind of stuff, and in reality, obviously, he's the one who's building the majority of this. I'd
Yeah.
say this project is 80-20.
Hmm.
At this point, we have a good symbiotic relationship where I've got a lot of contacts. I'm a little older, so I have the experience and the resume and the contacts, and people approach me, and then we work on the solution together, and then he builds it.
Yeah.
I can interpret what the client wants and needs, put it into a PRD, a roadmap for
Hmm.
him, and
Hmm.
he takes it and runs with it with our colony of agents that we've built out.
Wow.
We have at this point a couple dozen different types of agents that we've built. I am a big believer in we build it out ourselves so that we don't worry about malicious code, security issues that you have to be concerned about if you're just using someone else's product, someone else's code, et cetera, et cetera. We definitely will use that as inspiration. Like, hey, this is a new product, a new feature, a new skill that came out. How do we copy it? How do we compare it to what we currently have, and how do we improve our systems? So we actually created a bot that every week will audit our tech stack, or our skill stack, I should say, and compare it to the latest and greatest that's out there on Twitter, on GitHub, whatever. So again, just building this system that
a self-improving system, really.
Self-improving.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's an amazing world we're living in, isn't it?
Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is.
Well, that's really cool. And what other sorts of projects do you see yourself taking on, or have you been taking on, so that people who are listening to this know what they can reach out about?
Yeah. So, I mean, at a basic level, it's an understanding of what AI is and what it is not. I'm getting a lot of people who either don't have an understanding of where we're at. They haven't paid attention. I've got friends, my wife has friends who've never heard of Claude. Because my wife didn't know about Claude until 3 months ago. And now, she has her own OpenClaw bot,
Nice.
and talks to it every day. And so she was kind of asking a handful of her friends. She's a pharmacist, so she's in the medical field, and most of her network has no idea of what's out there and what capabilities there are. Or on the flip side, you have people that are, the phrase, the Dunning-Kruger effect. You have a lot of people that we've met who have an unrealistic expectation of how simple it is to implement. So I've taken it upon myself to kind of just be an educator, right? And just explain to people, here's where we're at, here's where we're going, but what is reality? Just kind of establishing realistic timelines and that sort of thing. But honestly, like I said, we had no idea we could do the project, replacing that software. They came to us and we asked them, what's your biggest pain point? What's the biggest expense? That sort of thing. And we're under that deadline because they would have to renew. They'd have to they'd have to renew for another year, by April 15th, I think it was. So that's why we were under the time crunch we were under. And you know what? Hey, we're going to pass the test. So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's pretty cool. All
right, cool. Well, Don, this has been really fun, really interesting. I'm sure we could talk a lot longer, but let's wrap it up. And where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you, reach out if they have any questions?
Yeah. So again, it's Kaizen AI Lab. So that's the website, KaizenAILab.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, at DHOESQ. Great. All right, Don, thanks so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, John.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.